So I have owned this Chromebook for a year. In my last video, somebody commented whether or not I was using Chrome OS. Yes, I was. I have had an Acer C720 Chromebook now for the last year. And I have to say that aside from a couple of occasional unexpected power outages that happened, and it wasn't a result of a dead battery, I think it was a software bug, because after a couple of cloud-based software updates, I haven't had any problems since. So aside from that, minor issue, the system has been bulletproof. I love getting on it when all I need to do, or all I want to do, is access the web, and I want to type out, a nice document. Not that I couldn't do it on the iPhone now that I have that bat-top keyboard. If you want to go back and take a look at that video, you can. But if I want a desktop-like experience, because for instance, in Google Mail on iOS and on, I guess it'd be the same with Android, I cannot, under any circumstance, create a new folder. I can manage the current ones, but I can't create a new one. And also, I can't do a select all when it comes to wanting to delete like a zillion and one things. That and the just the enhancements of the desktop performance in a package that is extremely lightweight. And what do I mean by desktop performance? You're thinking, well, this isn't a desktop, it's a cloud-based computer. Yes, it is. But at the same time, it gives you the desktop browsing experience. And I liken the Chromebook, if I can get this thing to cooperate. There we go. Oh, now it works. Maybe I was hitting the wrong key. Anyway, I liken the Chromebook to an Apple II computer. I grew up with one of these. When I was very little, I had one. And for those of you who have used one of these, you probably know that the system has no internal storage whatsoever. In order to make it run, you need a floppy disk. Well, it's the exact same thing with one of these Chromebooks. Yes, you can do things offline, but it primarily requires on a floppy disk for the 21st century of sorts, in this case, a connection to the internet, in order to really do anything. But with net neutrality going on and people pushing, myself included, pushing the FCC to classify the internet as a utility, because these days, looking for jobs is an online process. Paying your bills is an online process. Going shopping is an online process. It's gotten to the point where if we were to lose the internet, it would be like losing electricity or losing heat or losing access to food. It's become that indispensable. And so the Chromebook needs a connection to the internet to survive, so to speak, just as the Apple II needed a floppy disk to run. But again, these days, I mentioned earlier that I've got Cloud Print enabled on my system, and because of this one limitation having been overcome, because it wasn't a year ago with the older printer, with this one limitation having been overcome, I have to say that I'm using my MacBook Air quite a bit less. Not to say that I don't use it at all, because I still do use it. However, the iPhone solves a lot of the local storage-based apps for me. I've got Skype on here. I've got, I can download an instant messaging app that would qualify as AIM. I've got all the music from my Mac I've got on here, which my guess I could probably back up to iCloud Drive, which I'll get to in a moment. So a lot of the local apps are being handled by the iPhone. So while I certainly do use the MacBook Air sometimes, I use it a heck of a lot less than I used to. And again, we go back to Google Drive. I've got I've got some things on there, and it's accessible from anywhere. That's really, really cool. It eliminates the need for thumb drives, even though the Google Chromebook can support a thumb drive. And thanks to technology with these wireless media hubs, even iPhones with the supported apps can handle a thumb drive. Now, granted, the experience is a bit limiting, but it's still there. And if you look hard enough, you'll most likely find something to handle the basic task. I'm kind of new to that myself. I'm kind of new to the whole remote Wi-Fi drive concept, but I find it intriguing. And then, of course, Apple's gotten onto the bandwagon with iCloud Drive. Now, the only thing that prevents me from ditching my Mac entirely is the fact that the bulk of I've used a Mac now for the last, what'll be 13 years this summer. And in the beginning, we had dial-up. And the dial-up connection was so slow that it was not practical at the time to buy anything from iTunes or even go out and get cover art for the CDs that I had. So the bulk of my music collection was on CDs, and a lot of it still is. If I can alleviate, that's the only reason I still use the Mac. But if I can alleviate, if I can alleviate that need using iCloud Drive, now the question is whether or not iTunes would recognize music from iCloud Drive that has been uploaded, from what are essentially ripped CD files. If iCloud Drive can handle that, then I don't think I would ever need a full-on Mac again. Now, would I want one? Yes. Why? Accessibility. Because compared to Google's Chrome OS, the Macintosh is far superior, and so too is the iPhone as far as accessibility if you have limited vision. That being said, on a day-to-day basis, I still use my Chromebook quite a bit more than I use a combination of both my Chromebook and my iPhone, and I really don't use the Mac much anymore. Again, that is not to say that I don't use it at all. It's just that the frequency of its use has gone down considerably. And given this fact, I'm exploring several options because right now the MacBook Air is no longer under AppleCare's protection. And the system had to have a battery replaced last March, and over time things just get bogged down. So I'm looking at a number of options. One of them, if you go back to the video called an idea for an experiment, take a look at that. That's one of the options, but I'll summarize it here. The idea is to get one of these LG Chrome bases, or recently I was thinking about the possibility of just getting an HP external monitor and an HDMI cable and hooking it up to this Chromebook. So get that and get an HDMI cable with a lightning connector and a stand, and connect that, basically have a monitor with dual HDMI outputs or a Chrome base with an HDMI input, and dual HDMI inputs on the HP monitor, and just have it set up where I could switch between the Chromebook for the desktop usage and the cloud computing. And when I say, again, desktop usage, I mean desktop browsing, and the cloud, and switch over to iPhone for the local apps. That pretty much, I feel that would pretty much cover everything. Now, have I been sold on the idea? No. I'm still very heavily looking at an iMac, again, due to the accessibility enhancements and any possibility. I don't know. I'm still looking for work, and I'm still not exactly sure where I will end up. So, there might still be a need for the Macintosh. My local agency for the blind is going to get me an HP computer or similar, basically something that I can handle with work that can also cover the local apps. If that happens, just a lot of things are up in the air right now. But in terms of 1 year with the Chromebook, absolutely love it. Would recommend it to anybody and everybody. A lot of people are thinking that older people would be very receptive to this. But the truth is there are a lot of younger people too. I remember several years ago I talked to somebody and I was trying to troubleshoot one of their problems through an instant message conversation. they were having with their PC. The very first thing, obviously, I had to know was, what operating system are you running? Because that determines a lot of what you're going to do. So I asked them, what operating system are you running? I don't know. Okay, well, what does your start button look like? Is it green, or is it the little circle with the Windows flag in it? At the time, I think the operating systems out were Windows Vista and Windows XP. Windows 7 had not come out yet. So so I asked them this, and their response was literally, "What's the start button?" Literally, that's exactly what they said to me. They said, "What is the start button?" And I think for that kind of audience, regardless of age, depending on, if you're not very tech savvy, then a Chromebook would be perfect for you, because it's literally, all it is if you know how to use a Chrome browser, then you can use the Chromebook. Furthermore, I think that the Chromebook has exploded in the classroom. And I honestly think that the generation beyond me and beyond that and beyond that, remember earlier, I made an analogy to the Apple IIe, essentially being a dumb terminal requiring a disk to run. The Chromebook is, in essence, you can do some things offline, but for the majority of cases, it is a dumb terminal and requires the internet to run. And as I mentioned earlier, if they get the internet classified as a utility, which I really honestly think should happen because of how indispensable it's become, these kids in the classrooms are going to end up in a situation where 10, 20 years from now, local storage will no longer exist. Keep in mind, I don't know that for a fact. I'm just basing that on trends that I'm seeing in the technology industry. So many people, even Microsoft, is going to Office 365 in the cloud. Cloud printing is starting to become the norm. It's just, I honestly think that we're kind of coming full circle in a sense. The only difference is, instead of a floppy disk being the life bloodline for the computer as it was back in the Apple II days, that the internet is going to be the life bloodline of the computer. In many cases still is, but what I'm saying is, in many cases already is, but what I'm saying is it's going to take over completely, to the point where maybe in the next 10 to 20 years, there won't be any software to update. There won't be any maintenance. As long as you have the internet, you have your computer, and that's it. So I honestly, I'm not saying if that's good or bad. I'm just saying that's where I see things going. And in that respect, I think the Chromebook is a fantastic little device. And if you're all you do is internet computing and you want something on the cheap, get a Chromebook. And, even if you want a desktop experience, they've got Chrome boxes and the Chrome base. Or if you have a PC monitor and you've got a keyboard and you've got a mouse and you've already got a Chromebook, then you're all set. All you need is an HDMI cable. All you need is an HDMI cable and maybe a USB hub, so that you can utilize the keyboard and mouse through the hub, leaving a USB port free for a thumb drive if you need it. But again, like I said earlier, with the proliferation of cloud storage, there are going to be people, myself included, who do enjoy having local thumb drive based storage. But I think that with upcoming generations, this is slowly but surely going to be phased out. But what do you guys think? Thank you for watching. Comments are welcome, and have a nice day.